But right now, one thought every game. KC Joyner joins us to look deeper at Eagles Cowboys here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. KC, welcome back, pal. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Like that Talking Heads intro. That's pretty cool.
There we go. Yes, we're mixing it up today. This is the final day, so I'm getting a little weird. A little Talking Heads, a little craziness here. All right, Eagles Cowboys. This Dak Prescott thing. What's your take on how that could change the Cowboys' offense, if at all? He was not on the injury report at all.
If he's not in injury report, it's maybe they're playing games. If I'm the Eagles, I want to find out quickly how hurt he is. There was the talk coming into or during last week that evidently Prescott told Michael Gallup that it doesn't matter what the read is, if we're running an RPO or run pass option, I'm going to run the ball. We're going to hand the ball off, run the ball. I'm not going to throw it, which says his shoulder was bad. If I'm the Eagles, I find that out every time. I crash down to the run. Whatever I do, I hit him in every way that I can in that first quarter. Do the old Al Davis, hit him early and see if the quarterback must go down hard. I do that quickly and find out because I think he's probably more banged up than they're letting on.
Yeah, now Dak has not, the Eagles have not done a good job against Dak nor Zeke Elliott. They both have killed them. Where do they match up better with this game? Obviously, they've had horrible success against Zeke Elliott. They have not been able to beat him at all, and he seems to run wild on them. But as we talk almost weekly, the Eagles are a good team against the run, but why have they not been able to stop Elliott?
Because he's a breakaway back, and the Eagles mindset on defense is we're going to do everything we can to penetrate and get upfield, and they usually allow over the course of a season in my good blocking rate metric, they'll allow anywhere between 35 and 40% good blocking rate. It's a really good number for an offense or for defense. If you can get below 40%, allow only 40%, less than 40% of good blocking rate plays, you're doing a good job. So they do that. The problem is they sell out so hard that if a back gets good blocking and they're selling out like that, he's going to get big gains. And Elliott has led the league before him a good blocking yards per attempt metric. So I think that's the problem for them is that their setup allows him to maximize his potential even if he only gets good blocking 35% of the time.
The Eagles' secondary has been a disaster on the road. They're better at home. They only give up 17 points a game at home. They give up 29 points a game on the road. Do those numbers have any significance to you in this matchup?
Significance is I just want them to – if I'm them, they're going to sell out to stop the run. So you're going to probably commit to safety to stop the run. But if I'm them, it's just stop the vertical plays. That's the big thing because McLaurin he had the big play last week, and he turned a short gainer into a big gainer. Look, find ways to just stop those plays. If they want to go ahead and if Dak's shoulder is banged up and he says if they say he's going to be fully healthy, find out if he is and see and test it and say if you can complete the vertical passes, go ahead and complete the vertical passes. But if I'm the Eagles, I'm saying I'm going to stop the vertical stuff. I'm going to play it safer. I'm going to play shell coverage, and I'm going to make you throw into coverage if you're going to throw. That's the way I approach it. But knowing them, they're probably going to do the same old. We're going to get upfield. We're going to leave these corners on islands.
We know the Cowboys, their offensive line's pretty good. And one of the problems the Eagles have sometimes is, when they're last week against Washington, they couldn't get to Haskins. If you can't get to Haskins, you're going to be able to get to Dak?
No, you're not going to be able to get to Dak, and that's the whole thing is that you want to test his shoulder. And I'll put it this way. I still want to find a way. That's why if they do the RPOs, I definitely want to hit him on every RPO. Just assume he has the ball and hit him legally. Just make sure that if he's going to pitch the ball, he's going to hand the ball off, whatever it is, make sure that you've got guys making contact and make him think that. Because, no, I don't think you're going to get a lot of pressure on him. But that's the thing. You want to try. If you can't, you just want to get quarterback hits. I'm not necessarily worried about getting sacks. I want to find a way to get the guy rattled in one way or another. So I don't think they'll necessarily be able to make it happen, but I think they have to make a commitment to do so, even if they have to do some blitzing. But again, if you do that, leave the corners on the island. So there's no perfect solution here.
Yeah, I know the Eagles' defense has been really, so up and down this year. At home, they've been much better. They had the game against Seattle where they really stopped them. They had the game against the 17 against Seattle, 17 against New England at home. They had the game against the Bears, who don't have a great offense. They only gave up 13 to the Bills. They had that 4-game streak where they were pretty good, and we were starting to believe in them, but that has kind of gone out the window recently. And is there anything the last, 2 weeks, really, the Miami game, actually 3 weeks, the Giants scored on them, and last week, is there anything that you're seeing that's saying this is why the Eagles' defense has had its issues the last couple of weeks?
It's the same thing it always is. I hate to keep coming back like a broken record, and we keep talk about this, and you know that the Eagles manager probably can think of the same thing, that it's just players not being where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. It's one of the things about, say, that, we look at the Patriots or the Bills or some of these great defenses. They've got talent, but the big thing that they do is their players don't get caught out of position very often. You can still get on those defenses. You can still get people to make mistakes, but the Eagles will make a lot of mistakes. And the thing is because they're so hyper-aggressive. When you're so hyper-aggressive, it makes getting your people out of position a lot easier to do. And that's why against the Dallas defense, again, I don't think they're going to get any kind of a pass rush because the Cowboys have a red-rated pass blocking, or they have a strong pass blocking group according to my metrics, and they've got, the Eagles don't have good pass rushing, so you're not going to be able to do that. If you're going to still have to stop the run, I think they need to take an entirely different approach. You're going to try and keep your safeties back. In fact, that'd be the thing that I would do if I was the Eagles. I would sit the safeties back and say, fine, if you want to run the football, go and run the football. We're going to keep it to 6-yard gains if you're getting good blocking, and that's what we're going to do. But again, they're not going to do that. They're going to try and get the big plays, and I think they'll get burned.
Offensive side of the ball, no Lane Johnson. How big of a loss for Philly in this particular matchup with Lawrence on the other side?
I think it's a very big problem for them because I've got the Cowboys rated as a red-rated run defense, meaning you're not going to get very good productivity against them. If you're in fantasy leagues and in standard football, you're not going to either. I think it's a very big thing. But having said that, we've talked all year. The bigger problem for me is that Carson Wentz has thrown the ball 39 or more times in 6 straight games, and he's thrown 40 or more times in 5 straight games. They are a pass-heavy offense, and I understand why. And we've only got Sanders, and you've got Scott, and maybe Jordan Howard's back this week. I'm betting he's not, but if you've got Scott, you've got Ajayi as a 3 if you wanted to, but they're not using him at all. So maybe they think they can't have a back to carry the workload, and I get that they want to throw the ball against certain portions of the Cowboys secondary, but still, I think the Eagles should go heavy and say, fine, we're missing Johnson. Fine, we'll just put an extra tight end. We've got one of the best blocking tight ends and got it. We'll put another tackle in there. We'll still go heavy against you guys. We'll still find ways to move the ball. I don't think they can turn this into a shootout contest because if they do and Dak is healthy, they lose.
Well, and, one thing is, all right, Carson Wentz the last couple of weeks, he's brought these teams back from behind, and people are starting to say, see, he's got this clutch gene. He's been able to do it. Are you seeing anything different, though, from Wentz to suggest, yes, he's playing better? Because, quite frankly, are you surprised that he's doing what he's doing with what he's got?
I'm surprised he's doing what he's got. Either utilizing the tight ends a ton, and mind you, Ward has been a surprise to play as well as he has. So to be able to do that, yeah, but they've been able to take advantage of very favorable matchups. Which, speaking of favorable matchups, I'll jump to one right here. The Cowboys are doing a horrible job of covering tight ends. They've been a green-rated defense against tight ends all season long. Last week, the Rams were missing Gerald Everett, one of their top tight ends. So they only have Higbee. Higbee's a good tight end, but still. The Rams threw 17 passes to tight ends, completed 14 for 126 yards. I know a lot of that was in comeback mode. A lot of that was the dink-dunk passes. But the week before, the Bears, who are on like four-string tight end, they just put Ben Brownecker, a third-string tight end on IR like a week before. They're down to nobodies. They still went 7 for 7 for 92 yards against the Cowboys. So I think that the Eagles could throw 20 passes to their tight ends in this contest, and I think that might even be a low number, but I think they could throw at least that many because the Cowboys' secondary is so bad against tight ends.
How's Miles Sanders factoring in this game?
Sanders factors in the game, and that I still think that even though the Cowboys have the red-rated run defense, they're missing Van Der Esch. So they got a weakness there on defense. And I still think, because every time I see the Eagles go to the power running game, it works. And it's like they just don't want to do it. I keep scratching my head like, why do you guys not do this? Maybe Sanders can't hold up and things, but I think Sanders, if they go power heavy like that, I think that he's going to be able to do like Elliott does, because they're going to have to do everything they can to keep those safeties back to stop the tight ends, because Jeff Heath just can't cover tight ends. And so if you have to keep him back, you might get 7 in the box. If you get hat in the hat there, Sanders is the type of back too. He's not Elliott, but he can break away big enough games to where he can scare you. So if I'm them, I want to make the Cowboys think about that too.
All right, let's get one thought. Every game, week 16. It's not a great schedule this week. Not a lot of meaningful games. There's some seeding involved in the games. You got the games tomorrow. Let's start off with the first one tomorrow, which you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. That, of course, is Houston and Tampa. Tampa's been playing well, 4 in a row. Houston still needs this one, but they got to go on the road.
They do, and I'll be curious to see what Winston, he did great last week. He's throwing tennis balls on Thursday, and he goes out and throws 450 and 4 touchdowns. But he's missing now Scotty Miller. Godwin's going to be out this week. Scotty Miller's on IR, so he has as his receivers, he has Rashad Perriman, Justin Watson, and Ishmael Hyman as his wide receivers. I know that Winston's good, but I still think Houston's going to pull that one out because they got more talent.
All right, Buffalo, New England. It's a big one. Buffalo can stay alive in the East. New England at home. It was 16-10 way back early in the season. Has Buffalo improved enough to pull it off this time?
They have, and here's the thing about New England. People are talking about their offense and how they don't have many vertical threats and things. Their run blocking isn't as good. Their pass blocking isn't as good. Their pass rushing isn't as good. This isn't just a one-part problem for New England. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they're showing weaknesses in multiple areas. I think Buffalo's going to go in there and pull off the upset because as well as they're playing, I think they'll be able to exploit those weaknesses.
All right, L.A., kind of still in it. They need a lot of help. San Francisco needs this for the 1 seed in the division. Games in San Fran, awful loss by the 49ers last week.
Oh, terrible loss for the 49ers last week. You can't, to go, and they knew that was a team that was going to come in there and play hard against them. Their coach, Kyle Shanahan, he knew that was going to be a problem. Having said that, a big plus for San Francisco is to get Richard Sherman back. He's been out, and he's been a shutdown corner, and his absence, he's not a cover corner the same way Deion was back in the day, but he's that same dynamic that if you miss him, it changes your whole dynamic of defense. Him back makes the difference. They win that contest.
All right, let's go to the Sunday games. Atlanta back home, Jacksonville. I know this game doesn't mean much, but can Dan Quinn keep his job if they win out here?
I would think that he could. I would hope a Super Bowl berth would buy you a little more time than this, even though they've allowed that biggest comeback of things. Jacksonville, Coughlin being gone, I think I think the players are going to be happy to see that, but now you're rudderless and you don't have a leader, and they know their coach is a lame duck too. So I think Atlanta is going to play hard for Quinn, and I think that they win that contest.
Baltimore, Cleveland. Cleveland bombed them early in the season. This game's at home. Baltimore's playing for the 1 seed here. Do you see Cleveland sweeping this series? Is this game a Baltimore win?
Baltimore win. Baltimore have the revenge factor going back to Cleveland. They love nothing more than going back to Cleveland and winning there. And Cleveland's run defense has been terrible. They've got the offensive issues and such. And I think Baltimore will win. I wouldn't be surprised to see Baltimore win this game by 2 touchdowns.
All right, heading to New Orleans, Tennessee. This is a big one. Tennessee needs this. New Orleans on the road. They're playing for the 1 seed. Tennessee playing for the South. Tennessee had a game last week that they had a shot to win. They lose to Houston. Now they got to beat New Orleans. So tough spot here for the Titans.
A tough spot, very much. Their Kenny Vaccaro, strong safety, can't cover tight ends well. Byard, their free safety, is not playing nearly as well. And they're going to be missing the Dory Jackson. He's out. They have a guy named Ty Smith who's playing south in his place, but Ty Smith is slated to cover Michael Thomas. Can't guard Mike is somebody who can beat anybody, but he can definitely take a backup cornerback and maybe get another 15 catches this week. So New Orleans pretty handily.
Indy kind of closing up the string on what ended up being a disappointing season. I mean, they were a fun team to watch. They seemed like they were right in the mix, and they lose last week to eliminate, and Carolina's looking for a new coach. So this is one of the games this week that doesn't have a heck of a lot going on.
No, it doesn't, and Carolina's run defense has been so bad that I think that Indianapolis is going to be able to lean on Marlon Mack and get a big production there. And plus, Carolina's changing their quarterback now. They got Will Grier, and it's you got a rookie quarterback's first start. I can't pick them to win, so I'll go Indianapolis.
Dub V, Will Grier, Cincinnati taking on Miami. When this game was like the halfway through the season, you were like, holy moly. You're still kind of like, holy moly, but man, Miami at home, Cincinnati can lose this game to clinch the number 1 seed. In the NFL draft, that is.
If you're a Cincinnati fan, you're hoping they do that, but Miami's got so many problems in their secondary, and I know that Cincinnati doesn't have a great receiving core. They got Boyd and Erickson and John Ross, but the Dolphins are down to Nate Brooks is like an 8th string cornerback, and he's going to be their nickel back, and they're down to backup safeties. They're in such horrible shape that I think Cincinnati will be able to throw enough and win.
All right, Pittsburgh and New York. Steelers need this one. Jets at home. Steelers, they got to win both these games here to really solidify their spot. Ducky looked pretty bad last week.
He looked terrible. That's the Bills. They made some other mistakes too. The fumbled handoff on the Wildcat and the terrible punt. So they had a number of things. He helped lose them the game, but they did a lot of other things to lose it. I think they're going to do very well against the Jets. They've been motivated against Le'Veon Bell, and I also think that the Steelers. My understanding is if they win the last 2, they'll make the playoffs. If they win this one, they beat Baltimore next week. So I think they'll be highly motivated to blow this game out.
All right, New York, Washington battle for the number 2 pick in the draft, and I guess here you got Jones coming back against Haskins.
Yeah, you do, and Washington's secondary is in very bad shape, and their run defense isn't playing well. And Barkley's not what he usually is. They're going to have. They've got Aaron Colvin, Fabian Moreau, and Danny Johnson is going to be the Washington secondary player, Washington cornerbacks. And Landon Collins got torched last week, and he's questionable. He might not even play. When you've got that many injuries in the secondary, I'll take Daniel Jones on that one.
All right, KC Joyner, NFL Insider, one thought every game. Detroit, Denver. Kind of intrigued by Denver with Locke here. Apparently he's a little under the weather, but, to see if he can continue to play well.
Yeah, and Detroit's going to get back Kerryon Johnson. It looks like they'll have Kerryon Johnson and Bo Scarborough. But I think that the Denver defense, the run defense, has played really well. And mind you, the quarterback for Detroit, he's just been terrible since that first quarter against Chicago. And I think Locke, as well as he's playing with the Detroit, again, this a recurring theme here, the secondary injuries that they have and the way their secondary's been playing badly, I think Locke maybe throws for a couple of wins.
Oakland, L.A., nothing really jumping out about this one. Could be the last couple games for Phillip Rivers in a Charger uniform.
Could be, and Rivers are making a ton of mistakes. He's a very mistake-prone quarterback right now, and I'll be curious to see about the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to win this one, but I'll be curious to see how motivated they are, because after the way that the things have gone recently for them, I'm curious if they're going to stay that sort of motivated, or if they're already looking ahead to Las Vegas. So, they're like looking forward to an off-season Las Vegas trip. Well, we all would be that way, so I still take it.
Didn't sound like Mark Davis was too sentimental about leaving Oakland. You have anything nice to say? Anything here? Nah, not really.
If you've ever been around their stadium, though, and what's around there and things, it's not the nicest place to be. So
yeah, I get that part of it, but those fans have been great.
Yes. You ought to at least say good things about the fans, even if you don't like the area. The area of the stadium is not it's definitely an industrial district, but I would definitely be saying great things about the fans, because they supported that team before they went to L.A., and then when they came back, they did too. Some best fans in the league.
All right, coming up, Arizona, Seattle. Big game for Seattle. They win. They're in the one-seed run still. They got the NFC West, and Arizona kind of playing up the string, they look like a fun team. They've been disappointing.
Arizona has their fun. I think they've got a bright future. I think Kingsbury's been doing some things, so they're doing better on defense, and obviously they've got the quarterback that they can do things with. Seattle's got some receiver injuries. They're going to have Malik Turner as their starting flanker, but they still have Metcalf. They still have Lockett, who hasn't played well here and there. But I think with Arizona's defensive issues, I think Carson is a big game. I think Lockett is a big game, maybe Metcalf, and I'll take Seattle pretty handily.
Kansas City, Chicago to close out the Sunday night portion of this week's schedule. You got the Chiefs on the road. They're still hanging around for that one seed. They need a little bit of help, but it's interesting because they're in the third spot. They got to play a wild card game right now.
They do, and this is a contest, though, that Chicago's defense has been just talent. They're one of the best defenses in the league last year, and we're seeing now that Fangio had a really big impact on that team, because Kyle Phillips having a terrible season, and Mukamara's got bad metrics. Their safeties are not doing that well. Eddie Jackson, I even dropped him down to a yellow-rated free safety. When you start looking at those issues, and they've got that many defensive problems, and Kansas City's defense, by the way, playing very well of late. They're getting into the playoffs. The team's going to worry about their defense as much as their offense. So I'll take Kansas City pretty handily.
Green Bay, Minnesota is probably one of the better games of the week. That's your Monday nighter. The guys will talk about that on Monday's show. Eagles, Cowboys. Who wins this game and why?
Oh, I want to say the Eagles. I really do. My son is an Eagles fan, and I want to say the Eagles will win this one. But if I'm picking percentage-wise, as long as Dak is healthy, if Dak is as healthy as the injury report says he is, I will take the Cowboys in this one, because they just have more big play players. If Dak is limited, though, in any way, I think that if Philadelphia, it would be a crime if Philly didn't win it.
All right, KC Joyner, like all guests appear via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Of course, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I will be off next week. I think it's one of the most fun segments we do every Monday and Friday for as long as we have. It's so much fun doing these football conversations. I can't believe they're almost done, but we have plenty of playoffs and everything to talk about, Casey, and I always appreciate your time, pal.
Merry Christmas to you guys, too. Appreciate it.